This film-worthy fire engine comes to us from the Hollywood Fire Authority. They are one of the leading companies that provide fire apparatus to the movie industry. This particular fire engine is a 1996 E1 with a Detroit AV92 engine and an Allison transmission. It has a 1,500 gallon per minute pump with a 750 gallon water tank. This rig retired from the Calistoga, California Fire Department and was repurposed for its new life on camera. It has been seen on multiple TV shows including 911, NCIS, and Grey's Anatomy. Today she'll be debuting on Firefighters and Fire Trucks Getting Ice Cream, cruising down Old Route 66 through Rancho Cucamonga to go get ice cream with Jeff Dill from the Firefighter Behavioral Health Alliance. Hope you enjoy it. I'm Jess Quinalty. Welcome back to another episode of Firefighters and Fire Trucks Getting Ice Cream. Today is actually a special episode. We're actually at Red Helmet Training in Rancho Cucamonga, and my guest speaker today is Jeff Dill from the Firefighter Behavioral Health Alliance. He was actually at my facility today teaching a class on post-traumatic stress and actually how to start up a team to help out with that. And yeah, really well attended, great stuff. And so we're gonna go pick up Jeff and just kind of talk about some fire service stuff and post-traumatic stress and where the fire service is going with that education-wise. So stay tuned. Pulling into Red Helmet Training here to pick up Jeff, and yeah, let's go get some ice cream.
How you doing, sir?
How are you?
I'm doing well. Good
to
to
get
see
some
you.
ice cream?
Oh, you know it. Always up for that.
Let's go. This place is cool. It's ice cream with shave ice on top.
I love it. Oh, man.
All right.
Well, this brings back memories.
Yeah, did you guys have an engine similar to this out there?
Very similar.
Yeah.
Very similar. Different manufacturer, but you know.
You're just talking about memories of being on a fire engine.
Absolutely, but being the officer in the right-hand seat.
I'll take it if I can stir up memories in any sort. I'll take it.
I'll tell you what, it is a young man's game. You know,
well,
jumping in and out and full gear. So,
eventually, you figure out your body just can't keep up with the problem, you know.
Well, that's half the battle. Is,
yeah.
As much as you want to do the job, it becomes a stretch for many of us.
Well, and I think earlier today you were talking about how you went back down to doing the job again. You were in a chief seat and kind of came back down, but there was a reason for that, obviously.
And there was. It was important for me to go back online because it got me in my 2448s, and that allowed me to see my family who had moved down to Arizona, as well as travel across the country doing workshops for my brothers and sisters. I feel very strongly about it, and this was the way to do it, was to go back to my captain's position from assistant chief.
Well, and I'm really glad that your department supported you still being able to push that out to the forefront with the post-traumatic stress. I mean, we all know it's there. We just kind of kept it hidden for a while, and now it's starting to come out.
Well, I had some great support from my chief. He was the IFC chief way back in 2010, Hank Clemenson, and he always supported FFBHA and what our mission was. So, and PTSD, and suicide awareness, prevention. I mean, these are things that, you know, we just didn't talk about in 2011 when I founded FBHA, and it's great to see, you know, so many organizations, so many individuals out there starting to talk about it.
Right.
And we need to be there. We have a long ways to go. And then, you know, coming in, Red Helmet Training for bringing us in to bring that awareness to our brothers and sisters in the Rancho Cucamonga area. It's important to me as well.
Well, and unfortunately, it had to hit home close to us before I even, with Red Helmet Training. I mean, we've been doing some cool things over the last 5 years, and I brought in Bernardini and Mittendorf, and no offense, you know, but no, it's one of those things that, yeah, it hit home close to our fire department. And I said, I have a catalyst. I have 5 classrooms. I have a catalyst to start getting certain messages out there too. So, picked up the phone and called you, and now we've decided that this will be the first annual, you know, post-traumatic stress workshop that we're going to do, and we'll do it every year, the Monday after Father's Day weekend, every year. Because it seems like you start looking at it, there's a lot of bad things that have happened in the fire service on Father's Day weekend. You know, Black Sunday, Charleston, South Carolina. So we figured that would be a good day to just go, look, we're going to do it the Monday after Father's Day weekend.
And I know you're bringing in David Griffith next year, tremendous speaker, excellent story of what he's had. Of course, I'll still be the first for the first annual.
And there's nothing like that. You can say I was the first annual.
That's right.
And then if it gets to the point where when we have the 5th annual, we bring you back out, then you know that it's working.
Well, you know, it's funny because I've had a lot of people who talk to me about saying, you know, you're the grandfather in bringing mental health to the forefront with the suicide and PTSD way back when, and I laugh and I said, well, why can't I be the father? Why do I have to be the grandfather? Am I that old?
Well, that's either way. It's an important topic. It doesn't matter if they're calling you father or grandfather.
Yep, absolutely.
I'm glad you're doing it.
You know, we have some great men and women out there that are struggling, and if we can do our little part to bring that awareness and to inspire others to get involved, then we've done our job.
Now, obviously, you couldn't just take this ball and run with it just because, well, you were a firefighter, and we know that, you know, you're a firefighter, you sit at the kitchen table, you're a marriage counselor and a financial planner, but picking up the ball and running with it for a topic like this, you had to go to a lot of schooling.
Well, you know, the biggest, of course, was my master's degree. And then I started talking to people, and that was the biggest issue, is you have to get that experience. And I get so many calls from especially lieutenants, because they're the one officer that's usually selected to talk about behavioral health in their departments. And so when they call me and say, Jeff, what recommendations do you have? And I said, well, the biggest thing you need to do is to go out and talk to people. Understand what they're struggling with, what they're suffering with, what worked for them, what didn't work for them, and you can build that rapport with people. And so because I travel all over the United States and Canada, well, I've seen thousands and thousands of our brothers and sisters, and that's where we gain our experience. Our message from all our workshops comes from the validation process of fire and EMS that have taken their lives, comes from just the thousands that I've spoken to while traveling, plus the calls I get on a weekly basis. And so your best is experience talking about this issue. Of course, being on the job, 26 years, the counseling, that's just a little added benefit. So, you know, like I said, recommend, please get out there and talk to people.
And to date, so how many firefighters have you tracked now that you've counted that you figure have actually committed suicide?
Well, overall, when we look at fire and EMS, total is 1,321. And we estimate about a 50% reporting to us. Many don't know of us. When we break down the numbers, 1,117 of those are firefighters. And our earliest one is 1880 that we have validated. But the validation process is once we get that confidential report that comes in off our website, I then contact the fire or EMS, and I've personally spoken to about 1,260 chiefs and heard the stories. And so, like I said, it's a difficult job to do, but it also opens up the opportunities to meet some great people.
Right.
And there are, and there's some great individuals who are doing some great things in the realm of behavioral health, talking about peer support, talking about PTSD, depression, anxiety, addictions. And so, like I said, if we can just do our small part to bring that awareness, to inspire others, we're doing it. And we absolutely, why good Lord put us on this path, I have no idea. My wife and I, she's just an angel. She's had to live with me with this, and being married 38 and a half years. It's a lot of challenges that she's had to face personally for herself.
Yeah. So this is kind of cool. We're cruising down old Route 66, and this yellow building on the right is actually a historical building that they've kind of brought back around. And throughout this whole route, there's a bunch of cool historic buildings. But yeah, the original police station. There's like an old gas station up here. And then we're going to go to Upland today and see like the historic fire station on the way into the ice cream shop. And
excellent.
So it's kind of cool cruising through old 66, but it starts where you came from.
Right. and we've seen Route 66 across the country in our travels, and I love it how they preserve America.
Right.
Because I'm a firm believer, how do you know where you're going when you don't know where you came from? And so for cities to save buildings like this,
awesome.
It's a gorgeous building, established in 1915.
Right.
It's fabulous.
And you've been traveling all over America with your trailer. Right?
Used to be our trailer, but that's a whole different story.
I kind of heard it got broken into.
Right.
It's too bad. You're trying to do good things, and people are messing with your personal stuff. But
we gave up everything. We turned in our rental house to buy this trailer, and we had been traveling across America. And unfortunately, people did break into it and destroyed it, and it was totaled.
Right.
So now we're kind of homeless. And so I'm actually doing this West Coast trip in my truck, staying at hotels.
Right.
My wife is down in Missouri buying us a house. So it'll all work out. And that's that resiliency piece. You have to understand that things happen. And do you let it defeat you and kick you and beat you up?
Right.
No. You stand up. And one of the big things we always talk about is doing an internal size up. It's a phrase we coined a long time ago, in fact named a workshop after it. It means we have to ask ourselves on a daily basis, why are we acting this way? Why am I angry? Why am I struggling? And
we're supposed to ask ourselves that, because that's what my wife asked me. So
well, we should. Believe me, my wife's right there too. She's asking me why you act that way, Jesse.
Right. Oh, your wife's asking why I act that way.
But no, we do need to ask ourselves this: why we're isolating? Why am I having those nightmares? Why am I not sleeping? And listening to others is absolutely key, because they see us a lot better than we will ever see ourselves.
Right.
It's important to know why we do the things that we do, because in reality we can start laughing at ourselves at some of the key things. OCD, I always ask how many of us in the first responder world feel that we have a touch of OCD, right. From what we see or do. Are we more negative from the things that we see and do?
Right.
Do we take that home to our families? And if we can start to understand those, we can kind of change our moods before we get into those moods.
Yeah. Or at least change the mood before you get home.
Well, and that's a key. I love it when firefighters say, I leave all my anger and things at the station. Yeah,
right.
Sure you do. Let me ask your loved one about that one.
Yeah.
And I don't think we do it on purpose.
Right.
I think it just
most of the time we don't
us.
even know we're doing it.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
Whether it's a trigger or just sometimes you blame it on irritability. We're tired, or just the adrenaline rush or whatever. But we all know that a lot of it's just pent up, calls and things like that.
Well, and I also believe at times we really might not know what it is.
Right.
And it's easy to deflect to some other issue. And deflection is key here in the fire service. I mean, one of the things I love to joke about is, why do we pick on probies so bad?
Right.
Are we breaking them in to see if they'll truly support, us on the fire scene as probation, or are we deflecting because we don't want people to see that maybe we're struggling. And
Right.
it's easier to point fingers at other people. And so there are so many things that are new to the realm of behavioral health, because you know as well, being in the job, we can talk about behavioral health.
Right.
You know, and that I'll never forget my first workshop back in 2011 for the Philadelphia Fire Department. And I walked into that first group of firefighters and said, we'll be talking about PTS and suicide awareness. And you thought I had a third eye going out of my forehead.
Right.
Because what
Just didn't talk about it then.
Right, absolutely. We didn't
Right.
talk about it. And look how far we've come today.
Yeah, that's great. So you were kind of talking about, you know, if you were a professional, you'd be able to stop this from happening instead of, you know, unfortunately the statistics. Obviously you're probably hearing some success stories from this, what you're doing, right?
No, and absolutely. And we're not the kind that really toot our horn. I mean, we could put it on Facebook and the hundreds of letters and phone calls we've gotten. Yes, there are success. Early on intervention is absolutely key. And so we vet counselors when I get calls from firefighters struggling and I average 7 to 10 calls a week. So we keep very busy in that arena. I vet counselors. I call 3 or 4. I do it for free. And I have 12 questions I kind of weave through the conversation to see if I would feel comfortable in going to them. And then I call that firefighter back and say, well, here's 3 or 4 numbers. It's up to you now to follow those numbers and those calls. But yes, we are getting success. When you get spouses who call you in tears and say, thank you for finding that counselor, or thank you for finding the inpatient treatment, and we only recommend like 4 or 5, and I do it only because I've been to those places. Right. And I've seen what they've done. And, you know, we don't, like I said, we don't get kickbacks and referral fees. I don't believe in that. So, yes, success, very. A lot of them, and it's good to see.
Right. You know, you were talking about success stories, and pretty amazingly, like, I didn't even know one of my buddies, and I always tell everybody when I teach company officer classes that you need to have somebody that you can tap into both inside your department and outside your department for things you got going on. And there was something I called one of my buddies for. He's a battalion chief, and I'm talking to him about a thing, and it just so happens that he ends up talking to me about, well, he's having something going on with one of his firefighters, and he wasn't really sure kind of what it was before. And then I guess he gets a phone call on Thanksgiving. He's off duty. He gets a phone call on Thanksgiving that this guy basically says he has a plan. He's doing it today, and the battalion chief, it was like an hour drive to where this firefighter lived.
Okay.
And he literally stopped dinner with his family, got in his truck, started heading out, and didn't know what he was going to find when he got there.
Right. And
luckily, you know, the guy didn't pull the trigger, if you will. And today he's on the job. He's doing great, you know. But that's a rarity, unfortunately. You know, to give us that time to actually be embedded in there and try to help with that situation.
Well, you know, I always talk about what are we seeing more of, more structure fires or our personnel dealing with personal professional issues.
Right.
And so, you know, we are seeing more and more of our brothers and sisters reaching out and asking for the help, which is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
And, you know, you have peer support teams now, CISM teams, chaplains, counselors that are trained to work and get that firefighter back into the job. Unfortunately, in the last 18 months, I've had 7 firefighters who have called me because they were fired for being diagnosed with PTSD. But I also know hundreds and hundreds of fire and EMS that are working because, you know, because they got that early intervention and they got the help.
And you have to wonder, those 7, I mean, obviously, have they gotten to the point where they're just unsafe to themselves or their crews, and that's unfortunate. But, you know, we like to think that we can save them all.
Well, and that's the fallacy. As first responders, we like to think we can rescue everyone, and unfortunately, it's not going to happen.
So here we are. This is historic downtown Upland, and we just passed the newer fire station.
I saw that. Very nice.
And then right up here, actually, this building on the right is the original police station. Now that's a lawyer group, and that was the original police station, and this is the original fire station right now.
Oh, I love it. Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
I would love to have a house like that.
I know.
Wouldn't you? Just gorgeous.
It was originally supposed to be a museum. We were going to turn it into a fire museum, but financially the city ended up making it to where they ended up selling it off for somebody to lease it, unfortunately. But
is it apartment buildings now, or?
It's I think it's Prudential Insurance.
Oh, okay.
But you know, you got to try to keep those traditions in the fire service. It was kind of sad to see that go, but we're still trying to figure out ways. You know, like you were at Red Helmet Training Day, we have all that memorabilia from the fire museum.
Right.
That's hugely important.
You know, I've been to some big cities and visiting their stations, and they're absolutely. I mean, I was suburban, so we had a big house, but I love those old stations.
Right.
You know, where you have a quarter of an inch on each side of your mirror to back in your rigs. The challenge is
that would give me post-traumatic stress right there alone.
Absolutely.
But you're originally from out on that coast.
I'm originally from Rochester, New York.
Okay.
And so 18 years there, and then moved to Chicago and did my fire time from '89 to 2015 with some volunteer work. That's how I started, was a volunteer.
Right.
And then moved to Arizona when I retired. I kept on teasing my wife, hey, our next move is Hawaii. We just keep on moving west. But we are, like I said, we are moving to the Branson, Missouri area. And I hope to, you know what, they have a lot of volunteer stations down there. Maybe I can hook up to do something to help out one of the stations, departments down there. I cannot believe how gorgeous this street is, how beautiful. I love it. It reminds me of like the 50s and 60s, the trees in the center. Beautiful area.
Yeah, it's definitely a nice city to work in with the fire department.
And how long have you been on the job?
22 years.
And how many more do you have to go?
15.
Well, you know as well as I do, that 15 will go in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Now, retirement's a big issue for us in the fire service.
Well, and actually, you know, so that brings up another good point you were talking about in class today. You know, that you're seeing more of is it more of an escalation of suicide in retirement rank, or are you just starting to be able to tap into that and figure out where it's at?
I think that's the better statement, because you know, until we get 100% reporting, how do you know? You know, people. I get the question so many times: how do we compare to police? How do we compare to society? And I said, all I can tell you is the numbers I have, because we don't have 100%. But we do know that over the last 4 years, there have been more firefighter suicides in line of duty deaths at 100% reporting, where we estimate 50. So there are some things we can draw some comparison to based on our numbers.
Well, and even just if you look at the normal society numbers, that there's more of a trend towards males in certain ages, which we actually fit that model a lot anyway. So we're already going right along with the society values that lead to that possibility.
Well, and you're true, the younger and the older. And suicide in society has increased. One of the, you know, when we look at our data, and it has so much to offer, and it's very confidential. In 10 years, I've never given up a name or a department, because it's just, that's the promise when I call the fire EMS chiefs, and we've had 100% compliancy. They will tell me some of the information, knowing that we're collecting it for the data. But we learn so much. One of the things that really strikes me odd is there's a tough corner you're going to make here with this engine. We'll put your skills to test.
I've driven an Upland before. I'm all right.
One of the things is when we look at female firefighters, and we look at the data in society, we know that males, the number one method is firearms, females is pills, overdose. But when we look at our data, we are absolutely amazed. Yes, number one for firefighters, male, is firearms, but for females, the number one method is firearms.
Wow.
And it's almost by a 2-to-1 method. And just based on the things I do and I see and the people I talk to, is it because they've been on those calls, the female EMS and firefighters, and they see that firearms is 99.999% effective?
Right.
Or is it, do they fall prey to what we call cultural brainwashing? And I don't mean that in a negative term, but that not only are they supposed to act a certain way because it's a male-dominant career, that they work and live that way, they also take their lives that way. And so all these things throw questions into my mind based on the data that we collect.
Right. Well, it's an unfortunate fact that even for those of us that aren't thinking about committing suicide, we do go on those calls to where we do know if we were going to do it, how we would do it right.
But there are some methods that would absolutely shake you to your core on how our brothers and sisters are taking their lives. Dynamite, flare guns, I mean, immolation, setting yourself on fire, all these things, I mean, they're all horrific, but some are torturous.
Right.
And is it because they're feeling guilty? Is it because of anger? And so, like I said, we're still so new into this, you really can't make a guesstimate of why they struggle. All we know is the finality of it. And we bring that education, through our workshops. Our mantra at FFBHA is not we want to change our culture. I love being a firefighter. I would do it 10 out of 10 times.
Right.
Ours is to enhance it. Enhance the culture.
Sorry, I'm lost. 1 second.
Hey, we're lost. Yeah, I thought you said you drive all around this city, you said.
I forgot I came up campus. Sorry.
If you don't know where you're going, I'm sure
we're good.
lost.
Yeah, we're good.
Beautiful day here.
I did an episode with Salka not too long ago.
And I watched it.
And then the one with Pete Van Dorp. And it's amazing. We always end up talking about weather because we did them in California or
Right.
St. George, Utah. And Pete's telling me, it doesn't get that bad in Chicago. And I'm like, I've seen you guys fighting fire with icicles hanging off your face. Don't give me that crap.
There's nothing like huddling around the engine exhaust so you can stay warm. I mean, it's probably not the best thing for your lungs and stuff, but yeah, when you're sitting out fighting a barn fire or something and you're just frozen, you walk around like the Tin Man. That's
Right.
a problem.
So here's a place we're going to. It's below zero shaved ice, and they mix ice cream with snow cones.
I love it, absolutely. And I'm a big ice cream person. Well, thank you for that wonderful tour.
Yeah, of course. All right, let's go get some ice cream.
Sounds good.